I certainly went on to continue blowing on cartridges well after the Nintendo. I was blowing Super Nintendos. I was blowing 64s. I mean, into the cartridges.
Yeah.
Of course.
I blew a few CDs. I'm going to have to say.
How's it going, man?
Good, man. Kind of forgot to breathe during that microphone silence time. I'm a little dizzy from that, but other than that,
no,
I'm good.
Don't, yeah. I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah.
Hey,
there's a lot of pressure.
Look, let's get right. I want to set the scene here.
Yeah.
This is going to be a good episode.
Yeah.
When you were a little kid, did you ever go out and set up a ramp in the backyard?
Oh, hell yeah.
And just go I'm going to ramp that. I'm going to ramp that
You dang right.
with my bike, and I'm going to catch air.
Yeah.
Did you ever do anything like that? And you end up just completely eating shit and scraping up your knees, and it just hurts like hell. And then mom's got to put a little bit of alcohol. It's oh. Did you ever go through that as a kid?
Oh yeah. I split the frame on my bike once doing that, and it was game over, no back till Christmas pretty much.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that is one of a set of memories that I think a certain age group of people alive today can look back and go, hey, you remember, or did you ever, when you were a kid, set up a ramp and jump it with a bike and,
Yeah.
successful or unsuccessful or in some regard, shape or form like that, and that's one thing that a lot of people that will go and look back on with a lot of nostalgia. And there's a lot of things like that. And that's kind of what this episode is going to be about. One of those things that I think a certain age group of folks that are alive today, and maybe we can try and lock down those numbers in a thought experiment there, but something that a lot of folks experience and can look back on and just with a lot of nostalgia and be like, oh gosh, I totally remember doing that.
Yeah.
And that is blowing into Nintendo cartridges to get them to work.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the podcast. Welcome gamers, non-gamers, PvEers, PvPers, and even NPCs. We certainly do not discriminate. I'm Ovox.
And I'm ChukTomahawk.
And this is the New Wave Gaming Podcast, where we like to talk about all things gaming of before and all things gaming of present and how they relate to each other and how they have evolved over time. And we are really excited for this episode because it's just something that I think fits perfectly with the pillars of this podcast, pillars of conversation of this podcast. Wouldn't you say, Chuck T?
Yeah, I think so. It like you said, it's sort of a core memory for a lot of folks. And one of the things I thought of when I first started thinking of it is just, it kind of says something about how good the games were, because you wanted that thing to work, and you're willing to try anything.
Hey, Tommy, blow into this.
Yeah.
And I think it goes without saying that we're... Let's try and keep this one clean, Chuck. I know you've probably got a whole list of blowing jokes already lined up. You nasty motherfucker.
Let me just get one good.
Oh, you actually do? I was just joking.
Yeah. Well, like when you first sent this to me, you didn't word it exactly the same. You said something like blowing on it till it works, and I my immediate thought was that's in one sentence describes sex life after 40. It's very
fellow gamers, I almost just spit my coffee out.
Yeah.
So, all right.
Yeah.
Thank you for that to look forward to.
Yeah, it's coming. It's coming. But yeah, I agree. This is kind of the innuendos are ever flowing with this topic, but it also is. It's a core memory. Like I said, it when I really think about what we're actually talking about, it's something near and dear to my heart. And honestly, I'd employ it right now if I needed to.
If you need to get that game working. Yeah. Hell with all them haters out there. We'll talk about that. Yeah. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah. Welcome to the podcast. If you're new and here for the first time, thank you. Thank you for checking us out. Feel free to drop us a like or a rating, a review. It really helps us get out there. And we might come and bring this up in a future episode. I need to talk to Chuck about it. But we're really trying to just prevent him from going and opening an OnlyFans account. We really need to prevent that. It might become like a fund or a movement. I don't know. We're gonna, we just need your help. Show us some love out there. It helps get us out to other listeners that might enjoy the content. And we'll leave our social media and contact info in the description. But we're there on the Facebook at facebook.com/New Wave Gaming Podcast. And you can also reach out to us directly via email, ovoxandchuk@gmail.com. That's ovoxandchuk@gmail.com. We would love to hear from you. We'd love it.
Yeah.
So,
don't take too long on that, though, because these feet aren't getting any younger. I can tell you that.
No, we want to keep you off OnlyFans.
That's what I'm saying.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
So I mean, maybe the bike and the ramp wasn't the best way to set the scene, but what I was just trying to get at is that, if I look back at my childhood and think of just like core great moments and memories of like fun times, definitely setting up like a very dangerous makeshift ramp, or like leaning a piece of plywood up against something and just going at it extremely fast on a bike, not designed for that. That was probably purchased at like Fred Meyer or Ralph's or something. And just trying to get as much air as you can, man. Just, and usually wiping out, scraping up my knees. And another one of those memories is sitting on the carpet, either alone or with my best buddies, probably just after school. Maybe like, with some bologna and cheese sandwiches on the way that mom's throwing together in the kitchen or something like that, or Pops. Yeah. We're talking early 90s. And got a Nintendo there in front of us, an NES or a Super NES. It might have been a Sega. And just for some reason, you put the cartridge into the console on the top there, turn on that power, and something wouldn't be working.
Yeah.
But it was never as frustrating as you might think, because we always had a solution.
That's right.
And that solution was to pull that cartridge back out, flip it upside down, and you start at the bottom and just blow from bottom to top or top to bottom, and then reinsert it back into the console and power it up. You just give it a, yank it out, click. However many times, everyone had their own style with it. You know what I'm saying?
It's kind of like stances at arcade machines. Like, I agree. Everyone has their own style with it. Like, because there's a lot of variables.
You were kind of looking at me with like some eyebrows there, going, "I don't know about that top to bottom, bottom to top thing."
You were a little fast. I felt like you got to get some contact time on that. On each individual pin. Like you were like ripping a phone book in half there or something. Like,
oh, sorry, dude. I've been going to gym, man. You see that? No. Hey, so and then you reinsert it, but sure enough, you turn it on and instant. And that's actually something I wanted to bring up that's completely off topic, Ben, but how about that instant load time of cartridges back in the day?
Boom.
Just you flick the switch and the game is on. It's ready. Anyways, so that's what this episode is about, fellow gamers. It's do you remember blowing into cartridges to get them to work?
I think like one of my first thoughts is kind of like the origin of these cartridges and when we first saw them and I as best as I could tell, like researching, like that Fairchild Channel F had the first cartridges, and I think maybe the Atari 2600, like maybe the first successful cartridges, like mass produced.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
That's going to be in everyone's memory out there. Yeah, and I personally don't remember doing this at the Atari. I do remember there being issues at times, but it usually
but of other sorts.
Yeah, like you had it like on the wrong channel or something, or some of the,
or maybe the game sucked.
Yeah. It was
and you were thinking otherwise,
or like as soon as it didn't work, you were like, I'll just go outside, like.
And create a ramp and launch myself with a bike.
Yeah, it's like, maybe tomorrow. But I think we went over in the past, like the sketchy connection back there with the UHF, like sort of converter and all that. So,
you mean on the back of those, what were they, CRT TVs?
Yeah, I talked about like getting a knife, like a butter knife from my mom's kitchen in there, and going back there and working those screws and getting it all. So that was your first thought. You're like, I'm no electrician, so there's probably something, that would be the source. And I just don't ever remember thinking, that. And I went back and looked at the cartridges, and you don't see a lot of pictures of the business end, sort of the 2600 cartridge, and I feel like the connector pins were somewhat more visible in the NES cartridge. Maybe made you think that, and also like the Intellivision cartridges. I don't remember. I spent a lot of time with those, and like I don't ever remember that being the real particular issue. But
well, as we'll come to see here, and I don't know that they actually had that issue. So what you're telling me kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
Because there was a particular design flaw with the Nintendo Entertainment System cartridges that were going around in the U.S. I don't know if this was a symptom of the Famicom, which was the Japanese exclusive variant of the Nintendo Entertainment System. Because I think those were on the top, right? Those cartridges would go in on the top on those. I'm pretty sure. So
on the 26 or on the Famicom,
on the Famicom Japanese exclusive.
Yeah, I think you're
version.
right. I think you're right.
Yeah, but so what is a cartridge? I think it's fair to say that there's going to be listeners out there that were probably born after a certain year that they've probably only seen cartridges maybe on YouTube videos or in other forms of content online, but have perhaps maybe have never actually seen a cartridge as we know them, as a little bit older gamers here, because I think the Nintendo 64 was the last like home console, like a console that you have at home that where you'd put the cartridge in on the top, and turn the game on, and boom, you'd be playing GoldenEye 007 or Super Mario 64 or Star Fox 64, and those amazing games.
Yeah,
I think that was the last one, man. So, I mean, the Switch has cartridge-like technology, and I think you had an interesting story you wanted to touch on about that. We can get into it a little bit.
Yeah,
kind of, Chuck T coming at us again with the craziest shit on these topics.
I'll maybe save that for the end, but I know what you're talking about.
Oh, that's good coffee. But so I'm gonna probably do this horribly, but I'll do my best. But anyways, a cartridge was the mechanism through which the cartridge-based consoles would play the games, and basically it's just a plastic box cartridge that has a technology inside, the chips and everything, and it contains mostly what they call ROM memory, which is read-only memory. Yeah. So when you would insert the cartridge into the mainframe, all of the content on that chip on the inside the cartridge effectively became part of the hardware, the console. Like it became a part of the system, which is why there were no load times and stuff. Mm-hmm. It's obviously it's there's way more to it than that, but that's basically the gist of how those would work. Some of them would come with additional technology that would introduce a bit of RAM, and I think there were other chips for additional sound. and other types of enhancements. But for the most part, a cartridge is just this little plastic, I want to say box, but it's not a box. It's just like a little rectangular plastic cartridge, because I don't know another word to use. But inside there's a series of tech with chips on it. You insert it into the console and turn the console on, and it immediately just boots right up.
Yeah. Yeah.
But what's important to just for the listeners to visualize this is that, especially the ones that have never maybe held a cartridge before, is that if you have this cartridge in your hand and you flip it upside down, there's basically a strip of a piece of the chip hanging out of the bottom of the cartridge. It's a strip of the chip hanging out, and there's little pins on it that look like teeth. Mm-hmm. And that's the part that you would insert and push down and turn the game on.
Yeah. That's what I was calling the business end there a second ago. That definitely like describes it like super well. And I think that's it. Like seeing that, made you sort of think you could alter that situation somehow, that dust might be a problem with that. Maybe you haven't stored it in the little sleeve that it came in, and you
Oh yeah, because it came with a little, the NES cartridges came with a little like sock thing.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. And I have to admit too, that like something like part of just being alive at that time is I remember like our computers at school, like there was a guy that came and working at him one day, and like just a drop of sweat like came off his head, and like this blue smoke came up out of that computer, like where it went into it, and like it destroyed that thing. So I want to say like there was and I remember dust like being a particular enemy of it. Like maybe even like we had these little air duster can things that we were supposed to kind of keep the computer clean with and stuff. So I can remember an attitude of like electronics need to be clean, and are very susceptible to, outside influences. Man. So.
I mean, even back in the 80s and 90s, it had already been like, maybe 10, 15 years into the development of all this new tech. But it was still such a young age. Nobody knew how to take care of this stuff. It was probably just the mindset was, this was like $1,000. We need to take a lot of good care of it. So let's clean that bitch,
Well, yeah. And like
it was so expensive back then.
And in the movies, it was always going on the fritz somehow. Like, that robot on Lost in Space was always doing something crazy. And like, so it was like, you sort of
danger, Chuck T. Danger, Chuck T.
Yeah. Oh God, that show is like just, I've watched so many reruns of that.
Have you seen the new one?
I have, and I super enjoyed it, but
yeah, it's not bad.
Oh, what is that doctor? The doctor that's like the
Smith?
Oh, that dude! Like in the original show, he was such a slime ball. Like I hated him so much.
Dude, what about Dr. Smith on the new show? I mean, it's a lady in this new show, but man, she is like evil. Evil.
I've saw all of it, and I'm not like pulling up the same amount of memories as I am of that older dude. Like he was just despicable. Everything. Like,
yeah, I know.
Yeah,
you're just like, somebody, he needs to die off.
Yeah, but I want to say, it was like tech went bad, and like think of like the Fonz from Happy Days when the jukebox would mess up, he would punch it, like he would give it a good little jolt on the side, like and
yeah, he'd give it a little elbow or a little punch, and then he'd flare his collar,
hey,
and everyone would look at it and be like, yeah, hey. Dude, nobody knows what Happy Days is, man.
Oh, I know, and it was even before my time, to be honest with you. I just saw it in reruns, but like, it's like I say, I'm just trying to paint this like picture of what led us up to this point, and like people's attitudes towards electronics, and I think it's important that we point out here, like one of the things that kind of made me smile as I was looking at this stuff is that. Our research for the last episode, like as soon as, I think you'd mentioned something about how the Nintendo Entertainment System looked like a VCR. And, that the cartridge had this sort of zero insertion force, I think, design.
Correct. ZIF. They actually had a name for that, I think. ZIF or ZIF.
Yeah.
Man, yeah.
Yeah. And we've talked about that they didn't want it to look like a console because consoles had kind of gone out of favor there after the crash of 1983, which we talked about in our last episode. And I don't think, I wouldn't have had that knowledge really beforehand. Like maybe I could have pieced that together just a little bit, but I didn't know that, that why they named it the Nintendo Entertainment System. And, like we talked about
Dude,
Rob.
when you told me there was like a robot.
Rob the robot.
Yeah, like what?
Yeah.
Did he play with you?
So yeah, I hope that brings some value to this information for folks. And I know it did for me. And, it's fun to see those connections, I think. And can you tell me a little bit more about that zero insertion force situation and like why they did that? Like, because I feel like that's like one of the culprits here. Like why maybe the NES had that problem where we didn't see it in the consoles previous.
Yeah, and this is going to kind of come. I can do my best to kind of dive into that a little bit more, and it's going to come coupled with what we were experiencing at the time, like what we were experiencing and why we would even do this. But yeah, so video game crash, everyone lost their lust for game consoles. They were still kind of into computers a little bit more, it seemed like, but technology was still pushing forward in other areas, and that was certainly in VCRs. And I think the VHS thing was just, I'm not sure, I don't know the numbers, but it was certainly very popular.
Absolutely.
And getting into them households. Yeah. It was probably in those retail magazines, La Sears, JCPenney, all that stuff, they're getting sold everywhere and all that. Maybe not JCPenney. Probably not, right?
Oh, no, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, oh, yeah?
Yeah.
I'm just double checking.
Yeah.
So they needed to effectively just kind of create a design for the Famicom that would make it into households in the North American market after all of this, after the lust lost with gaming consoles after the video game crash of 83. So they're like, well, what is working right now? What is making it into the households? And the VCR, which plays these large rectangular VHS tapes that also just tons of nostalgia there, but we don't have to go down that rabbit hole. They were popular. They were making it in the households. And they basically, if you look at a VCR from back then, it was a large gray box. Mm-hmm. But one of the particularities about that VCR was that the port where you would put the cassette in was on the side, not on the top. Mm-hmm. So where most consoles like the Atari, I believe 600, the Atari 800, the Atari 2600, all of those cassettes went in on the top. The Fairchild F, which was the first console to have cartridge, I think was into the side. Mm-hmm. Double check that, esteemed listener and gamer. I might be wrong there, but
I know the Intellivision was on the side as well.
There you go. But the Intellivision wasn't a console. Some would argue, or was it? Wasn't it a? They did. Wasn't it looked at more as a PC?
They did try to market it as an all-in-one of sorts. I think, but I consider it a console.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I guess
console.
It is more of a console.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know why I felt like they were trying to. Oh no, I'm sorry. The Commodore 64 was the PC, more of a PC style, right?
Correct. Absolutely.
Okay, forgive me, listeners. I was mistaken. Our episode 1 with the Commodore 64 episode. Okay, forgive.
It did have that attachment that made it into a computer, so I can definitely see why you have that visual for sure.
Yeah, but long story short, the VCRs were making it into the household, so Nintendo said, all right, let's redesign the Famicom to have more of a VCR, more of a maybe even a PC type of look. We'll make it so that the cartridges go in on the side. We'll make them much bigger than the cartridges that people are familiar with now to give it a whole nother look in that regard. And in doing that, they also, I believe, adapted the VCR tech in regard to the cartridge insertion. So with a normal console, and we'll just say the Atari 2600, you have the cartridge in your hand, you put it in the top, and I think you just give it a little bit of pressure and it'll eventually stop. And that's as far as it goes. But you basically have to put that pressure. A little bit, considerable pressure there. With this new, what is it? The ZIF, Zero Insertion Force port, you just take the Nintendo cartridge, you just slide it in, and it just kind of goes right in there. You don't have to give it too much force. Eventually, you'll feel a little bit of force where you're hitting the back, and from there you just click it down. So with the NES, because it was the only Nintendo console in the U.S. that had that mechanism, and again, the NES is the Nintendo Entertainment System, to achieve that kind of like mechanic there, they had to design the pins on the chip spread on that strip that's in the business end, as you described it. They had to design it in a way where they were manufactured like pre-bent. They were like just slightly bent, so that when you push the cartridge in, it would kind of like press up against the receiving pins and create this nice little like slide, and boop, and then you just press the cartridge down and boom. So that's how it would make its contact, and all of the teeth and pins would line up and just whoop. So in designing it that way, every time, in designing it that way, let's say, you and I are there, we're laid out on the carpet, having a great time. We just got a pizza from Domino's or from Pizza Hut. We're chilling. It's a gaming weekend. We're just started summer break. We just got back from the movie theaters. It's just been a great whatever. And we've got our favorite games lined up. We slide the cartridge in, press it down, hit power, and one of 3-4 things are happening, except the one that we want, which is the game to work. Yeah. We've either got a red screen, I think there's like a green screen. Uh-huh. And of course, these are red and green. These are primary colors, right? Would make sense. And then there'd be like this screen where you just see all these it's just like a clusterfuck of pixels all over the place. It's like a salad. Like you don't even know what you're looking at. Yep. Just some craziness.
I feel like I got that one more than any other, like for sure.
Me too. Yeah. Oh, and by the way, this is all on a very old school TV. It's not on like one of these new high definition, whatever flat screen TVs. With high refresh rates and HDR and all this stuff. No, we're talking about, what are they called, Chuck? CRT TVs?
Cathode ray tube, I think is what that stands for.
One more time. Say it again.
Say
it again really fast.
Cathode ray tube. No.
Can you do it one more time, but like really fast?
Cathode ray tube.
I don't know why that's funny to me.
It's your basic CRT. You're gonna have that on your big jobs. But no, as I pointed out earlier, all of those connections to that TV, including that TV, are questionable here. They weren't necessarily designed for what you're trying to do, like especially with the floor model wood grain.
Nobody was doing some high stakes battle royale on those bad boys.
Yeah, down at Magnavox, they weren't thinking like, maybe later, like, will there be some stuff shipped from Japan that we plug in here? Like, no, I don't think that was the intent. So you were kind of making a square peg fit in a round hole to begin with. But you were going to do it because it was a good game, and I can almost like visualize like there was a certain game or two that seemed to be worse than others for me as far as this connection goes. But like, I think you're describing it really well, and the connection to the VCR. Like, as I think about that, I wish it worked exactly like a VCR. Like, because it's almost like the VCR has that soft close effect. Like kind of like, you ever saw those cabinets like where they kind of, it's almost like a certain point they take over. Like you don't have to push anymore, and it kind of slowly shuts it up. Well, once you're putting that VCR like VHS cassette in there, it kind of takes over at a point and puts it back there. And in the Nintendo, you had to sort of, like you said, like bottom it out in that zero insertion force kind of way, where those pins that are slightly bent connected with those connectors, and you pushed it down at that point. And
Yeah,
I
you
didn't
did have
find
to
out
push it
till I was a
down.
full grown adult that you didn't have to push it down. Like, do you know that? If you saw that?
What? That's a bunch of hock tooey.
I said the same thing.
No,
dude.
you're lying to me, man. Why are you looking at me with them? Those
I'm gonna give like credit. Maybe I think That 90s Kid is the channel that I saw that on, where he was like, there ain't no way. he was like, oh my god. Like,
maybe he did something to the insides. Maybe he like rearranged something in there.
I don't make the rules, man. I mean, this is just the universe I'm living in.
I don't make the rules. I just break the rules.
Like, go
Ovox.
hit the YouTubes and tell me I'm wrong. I've come to believe you don't have to push it down.
Well, we'll see about that.
Okay.
All right.
We'll
We'll come back
but
to that.
I I believed it so much as a kid. I never crossed
dear
my
listener,
mind not to to push it down.
I know you're face planning right now. Please write us in and tell Chuck that he's wrong. You do have to push it down and to not open an OnlyFans account. Please. I know you're listening to this, dear listener.
All right. Yep.
No, we'll see. You might be right. And you know what? If you are right and the listeners are a witness, I will admit that I was wrong right here on our next episode.
Cool, man.
I
mean, I don't have like a huge attachment to it, but I'm not kidding you. Like it's something that
well, you probably got one of these lying around in your house somewhere. You've had everything else that we've
literally
talked
have
about.
one in this basement at this house right now.
Are you serious?
I don't know that I have any
I was just
games or
saying
anything in the everything you need to get the show started, but yeah, I have one for sure. It's in a Super Nintendo box for some reason, but yeah, it's down there. I saw it just the other day.
Which was a great console. But so yeah, we got this design. They did it for marketing reasons to get the console into the US and get it into the household successfully. It paid off. And they created these cartridges with a zero insertion force to simulate VCR's insertion. Chuck is totally right. I do remember the VCRs being a little bit easier. It seemed like once the VHS was all the way in there, like, you want to go and watch Lethal Weapon again or Die Hard, and you put the VHS in there, and eventually it would just kind of like go down.
Yeah.
And then you just hit play. It was great. Some of them just would automatically start playing it once you got into the 90s. Into the later 90s, VCRs got pretty high tech there for a little bit.
Well, do you remember Beta? Like in the beginning, there were two technologies that were competing. One was called VHS and one was called Beta, and Beta was way bigger.
I wasn't alive, I don't think.
Yeah, the Beta was a bigger player. It was a bigger cassette, everything, and so I think they kind of found some sweet spot there. Like I don't think it's any accident that Nintendo made these cartridges kind of the size that they did. Like you mentioned it earlier, like they made them bigger, but I think.
They made them gray, man. They made them. All of this was gray, ladies and gentlemen.
And I just want to point out that you could go too big, and that's almost like what Beta was like to me. It was too big. It took up more room at the Blockbuster or whatever. You could get fewer movies in there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was.
Yep.
But yeah, I think they latched on. Like they saw the VCR had won that battle, and it was the success. And they made the little door on the NES system here to kind of emulate that.
Yes.
And
Totally.
all of that situation, which kind of leads us to this point, to where we've described already. Like you put this in there, and you get one of those bad results, like the red screen, the green screen, and so what do you do? What do you like troubleshoot this?
You're not troubleshooting.
Well, I mean, it's like it's your house, man. Like you don't want me to go to work on your TV. Like I thought we were going to play some games. Let's get this thing working, man.
No, but I think what I mean by that is like we weren't troubleshooting shit, dude. You're just pulling that bitch right back out, flipping her around, and you just start blowing into it. That was troubleshooting for us in the early 90s.
Yeah. And like wonder how that spread. Like I mean, how we had to see someone else do it. Like I don't know that. Like, why did we do that there and not, somewhere else?
That is a good point. I don't know why, or if I saw someone else doing it, and that's when I started doing it, or if I just kind of automatically assumed that, there's probably some dust on these pins here. I should probably just blow them off, and then it'll work. But look, what has to be mentioned here is that because of that design, every time you put the cartridge in, you're kind of breaking it a little bit every single time because of the way those pins are designed to be bent. You're kind of like, every time you put the cartridge in, it's like you're unbending them a little bit to the point where not every pin is going to have a good contact on the receiving pin. So I think that's kind of like, or at least it certainly is one of the theories that I found online and stuff, that's why that was breaking down. So, what we would do to troubleshoot was pull it out and blow on it. Like, this will help.
I could see me probably checking the connections in the back. I would probably like maybe not get behind the TV because that was going to involve getting up, pulling the TV out, and all that mess.
Yeah,
but
taking more of mom's knives.
Yeah. All going through that situation, like finding the one I'd gotten last time and hadn't returned behind the TV when I move it.
John, yeah. Where are my knives?
Yeah, exactly. It's like, what is that boy doing now? But so I would check those connections, I think, and I would check and make sure I was on the right channel on the TV. And just like you said, I would have to pull that thing out, and it's blow time. Like, and I feel like my style, I'm more of a slow, I would say medium high pressure, like blow down.
Consistent.
Yeah, consistent from end to end, and yeah, maybe
you're more with the consistent style.
Maybe if possibly a blow into the machine, but more than likely not. Like because that would kind of, because it was always in the floor at my house. You'd had to got down there and really kind of laid it to it.
Oh, yeah.
But here is what I think is the most interesting thing about this is it always works. It almost always works when nothing else works. Like, you see the guy with the Nintendo official cleaning kit and like the degree from MIT or whatever, and he gets over there and cleans and it goes nowhere. But
certainly it's just the pins. They need a nice cleaning, or maybe if you just insert it 2 or 3 times, that's actually what's helping it. Not that you're blowing on it, dear sir.
Yeah.
Or maybe not. Maybe it is my air spit.
Yeah, and that I think is where the mystery begins, folks. Like, where, why? Like, go look online at the anecdotal evidence. Like, people get this out. They'll do all sorts of things, and they'll kind of set it up. Like, I'm gonna throw myself out there. Like, this is gonna work first try, and they do it, and it does. It does,
man.
Why?
Dude, for every video that I saw, like, I'm just thinking about this. For every like super dope, well produced YouTube video I saw from like some, I'm not going to name names, but some like, quote unquote professional YouTube organizations where they have like tech people, like savvy Nintendo people or just whatever, people that claim on YouTube to know what they're talking about. And, I'll take their word for it. Sure. I'll take it at face value or whatever. And they'll go and they'll explain that blowing on the cartridges, I'm not going to just explain everything that they would say, but they would effectively say that it's bad, not good, and that probably what was actually helping, or some would even say, not probably, that certainly what was actually happening was that just a simple action of removing it and putting it back in and removing it and putting it back in over and over again, like that was what was actually fixing the issue, because it would kind of just maybe scrape the connectors a little bit, maybe cause a little friction, right, whatever, but you reestablish the connection on those pins, and that it wasn't actually the fact that the pins were getting blown on by the gamer. Right. Yeah. And then for every one of those videos that I saw, I would also see, like some homeboy or homegirl with like some home video, like their cell phone going, actually, it does work. It's like, and they'd go and do all just like a home video, just like someone like holding the camera or something, or maybe a little bit more, well done. But they just try all the correct ways to do it, and none of them would work. And then be like, see? Not working. Pull it out. They tried a little alcohol, isopropyl, high alcohol value, whatever percentage. All right, here we go. Click, click. Turn it on. Black screen, red screen, green screen, nothing. It's like, okay. And they do it multiple times. And they'll be like, okay, now watch. They pull it out, show the business end of the cartridge, and they'd all have their own style. I think I remember one person doing like multiple blows. Multiple blows on the business end, and then he put the cartridge in, clicked it down, hit power. Immediately, Mario Duck Hunt up on the screen. Snap, crackle, pop. Ain't none to it.
Fixes it. Oh. It's a low cost, simple solution, and it works. I
know, man.
I feel like when they describe that sort of, just the act of pulling it in and out and putting it back in, being the reason, like it's essentially saying this is just a coincidence, like that these are two things that are happening simultaneously that make you think that they're connected and they're not. And that just, my gut tells me that's not it. And I saw a lot of theories out there. I saw I think I feel like the dust cover itself and my lack of use of it probably could have put that in my brain to begin with, that maybe some dust has gotten in here. And so naturally you blew on it. I saw some things like where possibly, just the moisture, maybe enhanced somehow the connection, like that
Yep.
Water is
just increasing conductivity perhaps of the connections between the ROM and the actual reader, or the pins.
And I think I don't know that I saw someone say this, but I have a theory that just the heat from your breath and the changing of the humidity in and around that area, in that microclimate right there, that
just gotta
those thin pieces,
give it a little warmth.
Yeah, those,
just give it cozy it up a bit. Yeah, come on, baby.
Yeah.
Oh no, that's more of a huff. Sorry, I'm getting easy now. It's October 1st, man. It's Halloween season coming.
Boo! I do think that could change the metal a little bit. It's going to cause some those atoms inside that metal to be a little more active than they were before.
I don't think that makes any fucking sense to change the metal a little bit.
Dude, when
you blow on that.
Allow me to share a little story. We had this physics professor in college there at East Tennessee State, and his office was overlooking something they called the mini dome, and it had a metal roof. And he showed us that when they built that metal roof, they did not account for the scale of how big that was, and that whenever the heat of the sun hit it actually like I think when they were first building it, the rivets started flying out of it. I think on small scales, it can change, like literally change the size of those panels is what he was implying.
No, but that's not small scale, dude. That's the frickin' sun heating up a huge ass roof.
Well,
We're talking about.
I agree. It's
Chuck
the
T and
effect,
Ovox.
the effect is going to be minimal. It is going to be minimal, but you know that again is just
All
like,
right, hey, I'm down with it, baby.
a little bit of a theory.
A little bit of metallurgy going down here.
What on earth? Like it's just some sort of magic, possibly. I don't know.
Yeah, look, it's gotta be, man. It's gotta be. I mean, see, this is the thing. Like, I have hands-on experience. So do you. So you know what? Come at us. Prove us wrong.
It's like you're paying homage to the Nintendo gods. There's like you gotta like suck the.
Dude, it's so. What's the word? Prolific or prolific? I don't know, but you know, it's so seriously for real that even though the problem was fixed and no other Nintendo console after had that design flaw, I don't want to call it a design flaw. I mean, I guess it is, but that design characteristic, you know, that it was the only console that had that. So the Super Nintendo did not have that. I think the GameCube, they switched over to optical disc. That was the next phase. I know them. I've always known them as CDs or compact discs. And I think they stuck with optical discs for quite a while. And then, you know, they had the Game Boy cartridges going for quite a while. And then I think, you know, we've got the chip now on the Switch. But anyways, it was just that Nintendo that had that issue. And it was such a serious thing that I mean, whether it worked or not, I certainly went on to continue blowing on cartridges well after the Nintendo. I was blowing Super Nintendos. I was blowing 64s. I mean, into the cartridges.
Yeah,
of course. You know,
I blew a few CDs.
Why does this sound so much? It's about. I'm sorry for laughing at something that's not actually, you know, that. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah.
God. What else did you blow?
I mean, my soup when it's too hot. I think. Yeah. I still am baffled at why does this work? Like, if I had to like pin you down to a theory.
Well, hold on. Before you pin me down, I want to pin you down. And you put a question here on our outline for this episode in our episode file, and you put, why does anecdotal evidence appear that this works? And I think we're kind of effectively unpacking that right now, but I mean, if I could just go ahead and like say that out loud, why does anecdotal evidence appear that this works? That's when we have to drop these theories. Why do you think it is? Do you see how I completely just reversed the question on you when you were already asking?
I like that.
Sorry, I kind of realized that that's actually what you were just asking me, and sorry.
Yeah, I think Socrates used to do that, like the Socratic method there. But so,
because again,
I'll be honest, I
listeners,
have some theories, and like I kind of became obsessed with this over the past little bit. So I think like if you'd asked me before this episode, you know, like if we pulled out an old Nintendo and I did it and it worked, and like if you just asked me right then, I would say I would probably go back to, I don't know, man, it's pretty old. It probably has some dust on it. You know,
well, I mean, I wouldn't even need to make the trip because I already believe you because I know it's going to work.
Yeah, I'm just saying if just, you know, by some some circumstance our conversation went to there, you know, without sort of this primer of you know, hey, I really am going to look into this for a podcast episode, I think I would still stick with the dust. You know, I think that's pretty clearly not it. You know, from what I've researched, like I don't think I saw that, you know, really championed as the solution, but I think if, especially like people like if people were in the room that weren't gamers and probably had no idea that this had been debunked and that kind of thing, like that's what I would say. I would say, just getting the dust out of there.
Yeah, but I mean, would you be saying that while deep down in your heart, it's not actually really what's going on? Is it that kind of a thing? Or would you be kind of like 50-50 on that? Like you're like, dear friends, family, and loved ones, I believe it is due to the dust. But but actually deep down in your heart, that you're only like 50% sure about that? Or would you be like very confident in saying that it's the dust?
I would say that just to get along in this world, because honestly, I have this problem a lot. Like I'm an overthinker, and like I love like studying human beings and people watching and things like that. Like just why we do the things that we do, and like so. It's not always just real polite to unpack that right in front of, if everybody's not really looking for that conversation. But, if someone that I knew was into that kind of thing or had read some of the books, that I'm into or whatever, I think that's what led me to some of the other theories that I came up with, for this. But I think I'd say the dust, and then I would mention apophenia next, if they really wanted to push me, and.
Well, before they do push you, man, the dust, it can't be the dust, dude, because look, I live in I live in dust universe, man. There's a lot of dust here. Hay chingo de polvo por todos lados. There's dust everywhere. And that just happens to be like a reality of where I happen to live.
Yeah, I'll agree.
Which is a true paradise, but it's dusty here, There's not a lot of paved roads. And that's just, when there's not a lot of paved roads, it seems like there's like a incremental percentage of dust increasageness when you have one less paved road up. Like the more or less paved roads there are, like the more the dust just goes up and up and up. It's great.
You're right.
So yeah, and when I remember having some consoles, but they weren't the Nintendo, and that's the thing, man. It was just the Nintendo Entertainment System, the first one. When was that released, Chuck, in the U.S.? Wasn't it released in 84? It was released in, or 85? 84, 85.
I would say it didn't make it to my area of the world till 85 or 6, but I want to say they started the ball rolling there late 84, early 85.
Yeah, I think it was the end of the year of 84, I think. Gosh, I feel bad for not remembering that. I'm going to feel, yeah. Anyways, no big deal. So, especially because the NES had that little garage door thing that would flip down. I just don't think there could be that much dust that would prevent. I mean, maybe if it was like if you literally left the game out with the business end like standing upward, you'd get enough dust, but it couldn't be the dust. I think if I had to come up with a theory as to why the game would like error, why it would like not work sometimes, I think it was because the pins were not all connecting on, like if you put the game in, if any one of those pins was not connecting properly to the other pin, it would give you a bad connection. So I think that's why the problem would happen, but I couldn't begin to fathom why blowing on the cartridge always fixes that problem. And why this is like eye-opening for me is because the thing that I am assuming causes the problem is a physical like bend of the pins. Like the pins are slowly like unbending, and so the pressure is less and less and less every time you insert the cartridge. Blowing on the cartridge isn't going to rebend the pins. So I have no idea why blowing on them works. Like I wouldn't even begin to, you know what I mean? Does that make sense? Like
it does.
What I think causes the problem has no relation with what I know is the solution. Like
if I had to put you in a camp, in one of these, it sounds like you're leaning toward the coincidence that actually just pulling it in and out manipulated that situation. a little bit with the pins, like a physical issue with the pins and the blowing.
No, the pin bending and the fact that every time you insert the cartridge, the pins start to give away, I think that's a fact. Whatever it is that causes the problem, meaning like I insert the game, I turn it on, there's nothing on the screen. That's the problem. Whatever causes that problem isn't necessarily the same as whatever it is that blowing on the cartridge is that makes it work. Like it's, there's two different sides to that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I'm in the coincidence camp, but what I am saying though is as far as I know, the pins bending is like unbending or losing their bend effectively is what causes the game to eventually not work as well, which leads us to blowing on them.
Mm-hmm.
But blowing air on a cartridge isn't going to like bend the pins back. You know what I mean?
No,
that's kind of what I'm trying to get at.
And,
so
and
like,
I think you're right. Like anything that we have made of metal, it seems like, like I pull a coat hanger out of the closet here and I bend it enough, it'll heat up and it'll come apart. At some point, even so. I agree with you. Depending on the alloy that they made these specific pins out of, it's going to have some property, like its malleability, I think it's called.
They're like copper.
And so yeah, I can see that. Like that's going to change over time as they get older and have just even the humidity of the room and the conditions of that, like I do feel like dust is somewhere in there. I don't think they would include a dust cover if it wasn't like a possible thing, like you said, but it'd have to be like you said, like standing up and it be a dusty place and it sit in one place for a while. But I'm still struggling with
stop.
Why.
Stop.
Why does it work?
Don't rack your brain that hard, man. Look, you put a note here that I think we haven't really pulled it out yet, and it's the moisture. Moisture. That's another huge element here.
Yeah.
The pins are made of copper. At least that's what I found. I think there's parts of it that have some tin going on in there, or something like that. But I mean, copper. We know what happens to copper when it gets moist. I didn't think we'd have that. Blowing and moisture are going to be two words in this episode that come up too often in the same sentence.
Have you ever saw that?
Because
like silica gel, like stuff that you put on connections, like to do exactly what we're talking about. That's like made for that. Like, why do we not have that on there?
For a second, I thought you were trying to bring up Arc, man. I was about to reach through the screen and just grab you by the neck. Like this motherfucker. I'm just kidding. Yeah. So no, you're right. There's a lot of hey, it was a brave new world still even back then when they were I think they were so focused on like how do we get this bad boy into the American household, and they did great on the NES. I'm sure now there's a lot of things that they fixed it right away, right? So they did come up with something. Even though it wasn't a silica type gel, or is the silica gel for cleaning purposes?
I feel like,
or what's up with that?
I'm not an expert on it, but I do feel like there is a product somewhere that exists, like to improve connections that I have saw like in some other application. But I think. Like I said, once we kind of got this ball rolling, I did, do a ton of looking at it. And at one place, I think I saw this concept mentioned that we as human beings sort of look for patterns. It's a thing that we do. You hear people say everything happens for a reason all the time. And like we look for patterns, and it's a good thing. I think it's one of the things that helped us evolve, to the point we're at. As a species, and I saw some pretty. I think the fancy word for this is apophenia. That to see patterns in things that do not exist, and there's an interesting test that they did. Something I came across something called the Skinner's box, as if we didn't need another.
Yeah, man. God. Blow Moist Skinner's Box.
Yeah.
Wow. That's going to be the name of this episode. No one will click on it, but it'll be a funny episode title.
Yeah, and obviously, I'm not an expert in this, but I can give a down and dirty of
give it down and dirty for the listeners.
What I took from that experiment. They had a box. They put some pigeons in it. They set up a thing that fed them randomly, completely randomly. But I want to say like some of the versions of this box will have like a lever where maybe the bird pushes it and then it gets some food. And ultimately, the bird is doing something when the food comes randomly. And whatever it is that it's doing at that moment, it starts to associate that with the food. And it starts doing it more and more. And so it creates a situation where when the food comes, suddenly it's doing this act. Let's say it's flapping its wing and the food comes. And then it starts flapping its wing a lot more. So naturally it's flapping its wing when the next time the food comes, and it reaffirms its beliefs. And so this self-fulfilling prophecy develops where it's flapping its wings constantly. And it's always... the food always comes when it's flapping its wings, so it makes this an incorrect association, which I think they call a type 1 error in a when you're trying to figure out exactly what's going on in a system.
Yeah,
like this is a false positive of sorts.
Right, and then the other side of that is like if you let that pigeon out of the box, or maybe not necessarily out of the box, but it'll get to the point where that pigeon maybe flaps its wings and then turns its head and expects to see a pellet, but the pellet ain't there. And that's I thought a pellet was going to be there.
Yeah, and even
flaps the wings like, oh wait, it's not. Oh, but it expected it because it had that pattern just burned into its mind or whatever.
And so like both of us, when we were presented earlier in this podcast with this problem, we immediately said like, when I even suggested like doing something, like a full troubleshoot, like we were like, no way, man, you're going to pull that thing out and blow it. So it's worked enough. Like we've saw anecdotally that it worked enough that we're naturally going to do it every time we're troubleshooting a Nintendo. And ultimately we're going to get that thing working, and it just continues to
we'll associate the fact that it worked with it was because we blew on it.
Yeah, that's what you do.
That's surely why it worked. Why is my brain even questioning it?
Yeah. Okay. So and this is where I'm going to go a little woo-woo here, and I think like where that comes from is like that's the train leaving the station going woo-woo, like, as far as going into craziness. I am in Asheville.
I just saw Rational Chuck walk out the door behind him, ladies and gentlemen, but we still got
well, I've learned a thing or two since I've lived here in Asheville. Like I've dated a hippie chick or two, and one thing I will tell you, they tie-dye their red flags, and you don't see them coming. Like, so... But, next thing you know, you got some crystals and stuff like that going on. But drinking that kombucha tea and all that good stuff. But,
oh, God.
So I will mention that once you believe that something works, like I personally have a hunch that matters a lot. And,
wait, what?
I think there's something that has been sort of pointed out. I'm going to use something called the observer effect as an example, where that whenever you as a conscious being are inserted into a system, it affects that system. A basic example of this is that it's nearly impossible for me to go out here and check the air in my tires with a gauge and not change the amount of air that's in those tires, like a little bit.
Oh, because just checking it will cause it to release a little bit?
Yeah,
Is that why?
Yeah. You know, that's
Okay.
a basic example of this, but you can go one step further on the crazy train and
Woo, woo.
and talk about something that I was first introduced to in a book by Sean Webb. It's called the Double Slit Study, and folks can look it up. Obviously, I'm not going to.
Gosh darn.
Yeah, which
Put
is
that on the
also
list.
how I got chlamydia. But it was another.
Keep
Never
Don't
mind.
stop.
No, just stop. Yeah, you're right. The observer effect is that, like I mentioned, the basic example is checking the air in the tires. So that once we're there and we believe that blowing on this is going to have an effect, I personally feel like that increases the probability of it working.
And I mean,
and the double slit study, it will help if you'll just bear with me and let me try to explain this. They have discovered they take a card and put it in front of a light source, and they put two slits in the card, and whenever they shoot the light through it, they expect to see an interference pattern, because light is a photon. It's a wave photon, and these waves, it behaves exactly like if we shot water through those slits. And you would expect that on the other side you're going to see this sort of interference pattern. Mm-hmm. Okay, they put a detector to make sure that the wave of light is going through the slit, and once they actually detect that and record the information, it changes the result, dude. They start seeing a pattern in the shape of the two slits. The light waves start behaving as particles instead of waves. The moment they measure, the moment they record it. And I mentioned this in this because that made my layman's brain believe that our brains could affect numbers. But if you look at the Wikipedia page, it'll point out to you clearly that is not why. It points out that it's the actual recording of the information that nails these things down. Have you ever heard people describe electrons, like how that they appear to be in two places at one time? Like have you ever... Like they kind of...
Isn't that, yeah, I think that, doesn't that fall in the realm of like quantum physics and the randomness
quantum mechanics,
of quantum
yeah. This is definitely in that zone, and obviously I'm butchering it as far as explaining it. It's like comical for me to even try.
Hey man,
but
we're not Neil deGrasse Tyson.
No,
we're not. We're not science communicators. We're gaming communicators.
Right,
Chuck.
and ultimately the reason I bring it up is a misconception of mine that this study showed that you could manipulate sort of electronics and numbers with actually being a conscious observer in the system, but actually it points out that it's the recording of the data. Dude, they have done this study and like recorded it on a hard disk and like get one result, go back and erase that hard disk and get the other result. Like, it is mind blowing. Like what
Dude.
and yeah, I mean, I know I'm not like explaining it, but do some further research. Like, look up like...
Oh man, yeah, but go. I mean, you're obviously not using that Google. You must be on DuckDuckGo or something like that. You know what I'm saying?
Cousins.com. Yeah.
Chuck's over here on Ask Jeeves fucking.
Yeah.
Causes and theories behind cartridge blowing.
I mean, folks out there, I'm aware, like, I'm not like just blindly going into this and thinking like I'm sounding
No,
like
dude,
I've
this
got
is
it
fascinating.
nailed down. But yeah, I'm just saying that there's something there that I can't explain that I feel like is at work here and is part of this explanation as to why this works. Like, as I was watching one of the videos you sent me of that kid that was doing sort of the full-blown anecdotal test, like he cleaned it, he tried it a few ways, and he said, now watch this is going to work. And I could just see it. I was like, he believes it's going to work this time. He did not believe it was going to work the other times. And like, to me, that was...
Yeah, that's 100% true, dude. You can tell in his demeanor.
Yeah. He and I've saw this like trying to get my dog to do something. I remember like I'd maybe gotten him in this cage thing, and I had some idea, like while I was at work, he had some idea that he was going to stay in there like during the day. And my girlfriend was standing there with me, just with her hands on her hips, like her body language was just saying like, he's not going to do that. And like I was like, you got to believe,
Oh my God. Yeah. You're like, don't fuck this up, lady.
Yeah.
we need it to work.
Yeah, I'm tired of cleaning up doo-doo when I get home from work. So yeah, this needs to work. Like, we must.
Were you?
Yeah.
Fellow gamers, I wish you could see Chuck's expression, man. He is just like his eyes are wide open, like as wide as a silver dollar. He's really serious about this shit. Like, you believe.
Yeah.
I love it.
I feel like my lack of talent throughout my life has forced me to have to believe at times, like in certain. Yeah, I'm not saying I'm completely untalented. Like, I'm just saying that
forest firefighter, man. Jeez.
No, I'm just saying like approaching the guitar. Like, there are moments like you just got to believe, like, you're gonna get this, and you can do this. And if you're sitting there just thinking like, it's not gonna happen, it's not gonna happen. So
oh no, you got to work for it.
Yeah, and I feel like something like that is at play here in this equation with this blowing on the cartridge. Like, I literally think that we've, possibly through apophenia, as we described earlier, like kind of being conditioned like a pigeon, like we believe it's going to work, and that matters.
You heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen. It matters. You got to believe, and you got to blow on the cartridge.
So we need to.
You got to work for it, and you got to blow on the cartridge.
Now that I think of it, we should blow on this podcast. Get it going.
You should blow us a 5-star rating.
Yeah, blow some new subscribers.
Don't tell people that. I mean, yeah, but no. I mean, only if you want to, listener. If you want to blow them, blow them.
Consensually, yeah.
Essentially, yeah.
Consensually, I said.
Oh. You're just pulling us down deep.
Full consent. Lord, full consent.
Forgive us. Ay, Diosito, perdónanos.
Oh, this is a good episode. I like it. Yeah.
As long as we don't talk about Skinner's box anymore.
That's right.
Man, so, hey, you know what? And on that, these have been some really good insights, man. Like, I'm really grateful you found all this stuff and brought it to the podcast table for this episode, because that's really fascinating. Like, because I mean, I had seen a little bit of this stuff, but I hadn't seen anything on how do you pronounce it? Apophenia? Apophenia?
Yeah, that's how I've been saying. I'm not sure how
that never even crossed my radar. And just the patterns in Skinner's box and all that. Really great insights, man. So thank you, ChukTomahawk, for that.
And I definitely appreciate people's patience, like I say, with the sort of layman explanation of it. But like, maybe that plants a kernel that you go out there and further research.
Don't apologize to these people.
That's right.
Don't apologize to these people. No, I'm just kidding.
I'm moving stuff in my mind right now.
Oh man.
Yeah. No, well, so can we kind of like, I feel like we're coming to the latter stages of this sort of discussion.
Yeah.
Like I feel like we go to like you've already mentioned CDs, like game cartridges kind of start to disappear. I think because of cost and the optical discs, they can get more stuff on there, and
That's really it, ChukTomahawk. It comes down, if you ask me, I think it comes down to those two things. Technology was getting better. Games were getting better. The cartridges were expensive to manufacture, and they came with a lot of other content with them. They come with a lot of like readable content, booklets, manuals, deliverable. Like it's just, they're spending some dough there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Nintendo Entertainment System kicked ass. Super Nintendo Entertainment System kicked ass. And I think the next console was the GameCube. Pretty sure. Or at least the next one of any meaningful, that created any meaningful waves.
And it was kind of a mini disc of sorts, wasn't it?
Correct. So basically, it was way too expensive for them to continue making those, having optical discs there available for using. And they could actually make way better games, way more complex games, and fit them on these optical discs because they just had more memory as well, I think.
Something you sparked in me there earlier when you mentioned what ROM meant, it made me wonder that if it was like once we started having autosave and like saving our progress and things like that in these games, that's why they changed the medium, to be able to accommodate that. But I also remember having a memory chip on my PlayStation, so I don't...
Chuck, Mr. Tomahawk, I think you may have just touched on our next episode.
What's that?
That might be that right there might be a great episode, a great topic to dive into. Talk about saving games, how it works.
Yeah. Okay.
Back in the day and now in today's gaming times.
Yeah.
That's a great yeah. Yeah, I remember those saving memory cards. They'd fit right in above the actual controller port. You'd put the controller thing in, and then there's a little slot like right above it. You could fit the
Dude, I had a candy apple red one time. Like it used to be sliding up against that gray.
Man, dripping.
Have you saw when they restore like old Nintendo stuff that's gotten sun damage? Like they can make that stuff look exactly like it used to look with some sort of like UV thing. Have you saw that?
Yeah, man.
That's impressive.
Yep.
Yeah,
it is badass.
Well, while we're here on the CDs, I want to ask you, like, what did you do when that didn't work? If you were playing with the GameCube, mini disc isn't working. Like, obviously, it's not. We're going to, address it like we did, the whole episode about blowing in the cartridge here. But,
dude, I had a feeling that you were going to ask me this, but I forgot that I had a feeling that you were going to ask me this.
Because I remember getting something like unable to read disc errors, and if. I remember people. I remember my homies like when I moved to Mexico. I remember seeing them do shit with the PlayStation 1 CDs that I thought was really bad to do, and down here I was doing what they thought it was really bad to do, and it was such a confusing thing. They like whip out a piece of sandpaper and start
cleaning. They fucking just start like licking it, and then they'd like rinse it off. They'd lick it, they'd be like. My grandma told me, es que mi abuelita me dijo que la saliva funciona con todo. They'd be like, spit works with everything, man. Fucking start licking the CD. And then they'd like froth it a little bit with the thumbs. And then they'd rinse it off with regular water. And it'd fucking work. I would do the classic. I'd put a little steam from my mouth. I'd go, and then I get the bottom of my cotton shirt and do circles, and that's what I would do. And then I'd insert the CD. Do you remember those massive fucking like CD scratch removers that you'd like spray with like a special ointment spray, and then you'd put the CD in this like huge like spinning like turntable thing with a turn knob, and you'd start spinning it, and it'd like. It would scratch your CD. It would sand your CD down like in a way that like made it new again. Like it just like give it a real fine sanding and a perfect circular motion, and you'd spin this thing.
It's a vague memory. I don't know that I remembered it sanding as much as it was like a pretty thorough cleaning, like almost like a golf ball cleaner thing, like where you put that ball in there.
Yeah, and it sucks it. Just kidding.
Kind of jack it a few times.
Spits
I
it
don't play
back
a lot
out.
of golf, but yeah. I honestly, we had those for records too. Like I remember my sister having something, where a record kind of spun in a thing like you're talking about too. But
do you mean a record, like a vinyl, or like
vinyl,
for CD?
Yeah, sure enough, vinyl.
Oh yeah,
but
man, that's old school right there.
You described it exactly. Like I've always loved how I feel like growing up in East Tennessee and Mexico like have these parallels sometimes, like because you're dead on. Like we would,
it's rural.
Yeah,
We're both. It's both a rural.
Yeah.
And
you kind of have to figure it out. It's not like you're gonna be able to like go get some special cleaner for this thing or something. Like you're gonna have to figure something out, and
it usually involved your friends. Like you really had to lean on your friends for like certain things, and they would lean on you for certain things. And through your friend network, like whoever happened to live on your street or whoever happened to ride on your bus, like your network of buddies and whoever happened to have gaming stuff, like, hey, well, lend me an extra controller over the weekend and I'll lend you Crash Bandicoot for a week.
Yeah.
And you would lean on your homies that way. Like, hey, if you please, can you lend me your CD Doctor repair and I will, lend you whatever, or you can borrow my this or that, or I'll fix your, so-and-so. Like you made it work, man. You got to make it work.
You got to be resourceful. So, I think this situation for me, you described it exactly. I'd get that unable to read disc error. I'd pull it out. I think I would definitely like do the and wipe it off of my shirt, but maybe some for the drying or something. I'd give it a blow too. I'm pretty sure. and like my worst fear is that I had like a grain of sand or something on my
but
shirt.
Would you blow the CD or would you blow in the like laser area?
More just the CD, but I have blown the laser area as well.
Jeez, dude. See, we used to do all the worst things. Like that's one of the arguments with all of this is that we shouldn't have been doing any of that. That's one of the arguments.
Did you see the one where the guy blew a cartridge every day for 30 days and it like changed?
I wanted to bring that up earlier. You were talking about something and I felt like it was a great moment to bring that up. Please.
About the pins, yeah.
Please, again.
Yeah, he blew it for every day, and I think you mentioned earlier that it had some copper in it, so it put like a patina, as they call it, on it, like it kind of
just like the Empire State Building, man.
Yeah. That's kind of I think they use it as an example, and so it's a clear reason it's probably not a good idea to
blow things every day. Cartridges.
Yeah. Yeah. So I feel like that was the CD was the end of the blowing era, like sort of toward the end of the blow era.
It was, well, I think it's fair to argue that the Nintendo Entertainment System was unique in its blowability, man. I mean, because they fixed it after that. I'm not sure that we ever needed to blow any cartridges thereafter onward. We did, and maybe it was just as effective, and maybe the what you got going here, the apophenia, or maybe the Skinner's box continued working for us after. But really, I think this was something that only us whom got to play the Nintendo Entertainment System, or that still may get to, because they're still out there. And if you haven't played one before, I hope you get an opportunity to play one. But frankly, if you're younger, you'll probably find it to be extremely boring and you'll never want to play it again. But still, blow it if you get an opportunity. Especially if you're of age. No,
what do you feel
if you're
like?
Over 18, blow the cartridge.
Imagine those Nintendo execs back in Japan, like they're doing what? They're blowing on the cartridges.
Oh, these American gene.
I want to say by
America sin
the
this.
time the N64 was out, they started putting on there like don't blow on the cartridges like round.
That's
eye.
correct.
Like,
You're 100% right. I think they did that on purpose to test just how nuts we were. Like they're like, all right. You heard about these guys that have been blowing on the cartridges over there in the United States, man. We got to stop. We got to let's just work with them. And they put let's just put on the back of the next cartridge that they should only use proper cleaning materials, and let's see if that sticks. It didn't stick. We kept blowing. And then by the time the Nintendo 64 came out, they'll be like, all right, these Americans, man, it's not sticking. So let's just flat out be like, and they put on the back of the Nintendo 64 cartridge, something to the effect of "Do not blow me."
Yeah, and as we do here on New Wave Gaming, we take us from that point into now, like with the Nintendo Switch, like dude, they're putting something on the Switch cartridges
Jesus Christ.
to stop us from eating them, like Tide Pods. I think it was.
Do you know what it's called?
There's a newspaper there. There's a newspaper there in Great Britain, I think, called The Guardian, that's been around since ages, like literally since we've had a country here.
Do they know what it's called?
I found an article. I want to say it's called denatonium. Probably killing the pronunciation there, but denatonium benzoate.
Damn, dude, it sounds gnarly.
I think it's a product that they, if like say kids have trouble chewing their nails, they put it on their nails to keep them from chewing it. So they put this on the cartridges.
I need to put some of that on my Oreos, man.
I think the Switch came out there in 2017, and when they first put it out, they put this stuff on the cartridges to keep kids and dogs from.
Because they're so small.
Yeah. Now, what did we
sense.
do? As like Americans, we started making YouTube videos of people trying it. I mean, honestly.
So you can't eat these, huh?
Yeah. It crossed my mind, like, if I got a cartridge, maybe I could lick it on our show. Like,
I mean, like,
dude, did you watch any of the videos of the people licking these cartridges?
I did, man, and I can't help but think about what, like you're saying, like that's kind of true, and it's kind of sad in a way. It's like, do not try these. They have poison on them so that you don't eat them, and then, okay. Oh. I'm like, what the fuck? And then film it.
Yeah. It's like we were going to unbox the Nintendo Switch today, but we just found out the cartridges have something that tastes horrible on them. Let's do that first. Dude, I saw a video where a guy went and bought a cartridge and he didn't even have a Switch. His buddy said, "Have you got a Twitch?" He said, "You don't even know what it's called." And he was like, "Let's lick it. Just don't worry about it." Like,
oh God, that might have to be the intro. We'll see. It's gonna be hard to edit this one.
oh my Lord, dude!
Not that we do much editing at New Wave Gaming. Pretty much just goes up as is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh goodness gracious, man! My chest hurts.
Well, we can't blow it now.
What else do we got here, Chuck? You got a few other notes. Oh no, I guess we are.
Yeah.
It says here, Nintendo spokesperson told gaming site Kotaku to avoid the possibility of accidental ingestion, keep the game card away from young children. A bittering agent, denatonium benzoate, has also been applied to the game card. This bittering agent is non-toxic. Okay. They stress denatonium is one of the extremely bitter tasting chemicals used in anti-nail biting treatments, among other things, as you mentioned. Okay. That was that quote.
Yeah.
Well, fair enough.
I'll be honest, that is kind of really all I got. I think it's funny how that ties into today. People are still licking and blowing on things.
I can't help but like kind of just look over towards my compressed air cans that I buy at Office Depot and kind of just go, huh. But those, we didn't have those back then.
No.
You just had to grab that thing, flip it around. Unless you're Chuck and you do more of a...
Yeah, I think it was just a one blow. Like you're a double blower.
Oh, was it just one?
Yeah, I don't do it up and down, but I like your style there.
You got to do it up and down for him, Chuck.
Yeah, because you're coming at those grains of dust from a different angle there, I feel like. Yeah. I don't know how I know this, but I feel like if we were playing together and like there was a problem with the Nintendo, you'd be the one blowing it. Like...
I was like wondering why you were looking at me like that, you fucking weirdo.
That's totally not what I'm talking about. I'm just saying.
I feel like you'd be the one blowing.
You're like an electronic problem solver, you know, I feel like, and yeah.
Oh, were you saying that from a kind, warm-hearted place?
I really
or were you trying to make fun of me?
From a fix-it kind of, like, you're a hands-on kind of dude, I feel like. And I
felt like you were kind of trying to say, like, I'm the catcher, you're the pitcher, but no, I guess... okay.
No, sir.
I was coming from the wrong place there. Sorry.
No, sir. God, yeah, we've held it together this long.
We've never recorded this late in the day.
Yeah, don't let it go. Don't let it go now. We've made it this far. The innuendos have been at a good level. But yeah, no. I just I feel like you're good. You're good at troubleshooting electronics for sure. When I get jammed up on the PC there, like you. I'll fight it like hell, but eventually I'll take your advice and it works.
Oh, and I don't want to be that guy, like, hey, because in this podcast endeavor, man, there's little switches and gadgets and doodahs and, anything can happen on any end.
Yeah.
It just takes patience.
I mean,
and it just takes patience with these cartridges. You just got to blow them and hit power and it'll turn on.
God. When you forced me to switch from playing with a controller to the keyboard, like, I think is one of the hardest ones that like, I'm super glad that you did now, honestly. So. Oh
man, dude, especially when we're playing that Warzone, man, and we're getting that KD going.
Yeah.
You gotta be, it's so much better. Like you're so much faster and more precise when you can move your crosshairs with your entire hand or even arm, depending on your style, versus using just one thumb.
This is so true, but for me, the hiccup was the left hand. The WASD situation was the hard. Yeah, that
it is.
I
hard.
still don't have a good back.
Fuck! I needed to duck.
Yeah, I still.
And you're like, why is he crouching?
Oh, it was a nightmare at first, but yeah, I mean, not to go too far in the weeds here, but it's kind of like yeah, it's a good thing, to be that person sometimes that sort of, fixes things and just to sees the right thing and does it. And I still feel like blowing on these cartridges is the right thing to do. I'm still going to do it.
I think it is the right thing to do, Chuck. I'm with you, man. I was going to try and be the devil's advocate because I kind of knew, I had a feeling you were going to come at it hard like, hell yeah, this is science right here. That I wanted to be the devil's advocate and push back a little bit and be like, you know what? Yeah. But, I mean,
yeah,
I can't go against my own experience with this one. So, rubbing a little alcohol cleaning off the pins versus blowing into the cartridge. If I'm in a situation where I'm on a deserted island and I only have one opportunity to play one game of Mario or Duck Hunt or Zelda, and it's only going to work one time and I need to choose how I'm going to okay, you're only going to get one game, but you have to choose. Are you going to blow into it or are you going to clean the pins with isopropyl alcohol or whatever it's called? I'm going to pick to blow on the cartridge.
Amen, bro.
Because the other way ain't going to work.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah. I honestly too is like
Ain't
you
nothing to
mentioned that I just pictured like you mentioned earlier, like your friends, like, and I think if I'd have pulled out that kit amongst my friends, like they'd be like, "What are you doing, Encyclopedia Brown?" Like, it's like, what do you got?
I'd have been like, Mom, can you call Chuck's parents? He needs to go home. He can't stay the night, Mom.
He's got some kind of weird smell going in here. This cleaner smells like nail polish in here.
Mom, Chuck just called us a Skinner's box.
Yeah. Imagine that. Imagine whipping out that cleaning kit and then explaining to everyone about apophenia. It's like you just think it works.
6 years old.
Big pair of glasses.
Just look into it.
Like that chicken hawk with the foghorn leg. You're just like real smart.
I said, boy.
Yeah, I think I'd have been took outside and beaten up or something like. Yeah. No, I'm still blowing from now on. I think.
All right. Well, you keep blowing, Chuck. I'll keep blowing as well. You got anything else, man? I think we've pretty much covered our bases here.
That's it, man. I've had a really good time. I hope our listeners have too.
Me too, man. Fellow gamers, non-gamers, PvEers, PvPers, and even NPCs, we love y'all so much. Thank you for coming and hanging out with us on this 12th installment of New Wave Gaming Podcast. Please check us out on the social media, on YouTube. Send us an email. We'd love to hear from you. Podcast ideas, critiques, just reviews, anything like that. It would be greatly appreciated. We got to keep Chuck off of OnlyFans.
That's right. Hey, we're on TikTok now too, guys. Don't forget that. And I think if you'll just search New Wave Gaming, you'll find us there. So.
Will it come up like that? I noticed there were some other New Wave gamers out there. Like, there's this one New Wave Gaming out there he's super popular, man.
I'll get the exact handle for that.
Isn't it? I think I know it by heart. Because I was really excited to see when you open that up, Chuck. ChukTomahawk is familiar with TikTok, so he's kind of in charge with that, and really grateful, man, that you set that up. I think it's at NWG_podcast.
You're exactly right,
and that's all lowercase, folks. At NWG, which stands for New Wave Gaming. So it's at NWG_podcast.
That's correct.
Please follow us on there. Drop us a like. I don't know how that works. Is it follows and likes, man, or is it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. It's follows and likes and comments. Like we'd certainly appreciate any interaction folks can give us there for sure.
Awesome. All right. Cool. Muchas gracias a todos. Thank you, everyone. Chuck, thank you, man. I love you.
Yeah, thank you, Ovox. Love you too, brother.
Peace. All righty.